In this segment of the lecture, we're going to discuss direct motor pathways. And remember that motor behaviors involve all parts of the nervous system, and so we're going to start at the top and work our way down to the bottom, starting with the brain. Motor information exits the brain, travels through the brainstem and spinal cord, and is associated with a set of nerves in your peripheral nervous system. The spinal nerves, which we've talked about in the spinal cord segments, and the cranial nerves, which are so special that they're going to get a whole lecture series all by themselves. So let's start at the very beginning, at the very top, in our premotor cortex. So we talked about the frontal lobe and how that's the area of your brain where you think and you plan and you make decisions. And so even before you're aware of wanting to get up and go to the refrigerator, it's all happening out here in your premotor cortex. Once you make that decision to actually get up out of your chair and walk over to the refrigerator, neurons in your precentral gyrus, which is your primary motor cortex, are going to become activated. We call these upper motor neurons. These neurons send out a very long axon, and we're going to spend the next several segments talking about where that axon travels. Once upper motor neuron in the precentral gyrus is activated, then that axon is going to travel through a great big fiber pathway within the central nervous system called the internal capsule. And you can see it here. So here's the internal capsule. This is a coronal section. And in a horizontal section, I can't spell, never mind. In this horizontal section, you can see the internal capsule here. It's this big fiber band. The neurons that we're going to be talking about in the motor cortex that go to the spinal cord to interact with neurons that are going to contribute to your spinal nerves are all traveling in the posterior limb. We'll talk about the posterior limb of the posterior limb of the internal capsule is associated with motor behaviors, basically below the neck. Motor neurons that are going to innervate the targets in the brainstem that innervate your cranial nerves, so that the cranial nerves innervate structures in your head and neck. Those primary or upper motor neurons still live up here, but they travel in a special place called the genu, or the bend of the internal capsule. So the genu is going to be motor behaviors above the neck. And what we didn't talk about in a lot of detail in the sensory areas is that the anterior limb is going to be carrying some sensory information. But don't worry about that. We covered all we're going to cover with the sensory systems. Once the axons of those upper motor neurons actually leave the brain proper, they become the Crus Cerebri. And you can see this on the ventral side of the brainstem. And if you make a section through the brainstem, it looks like this. This is the image that you're going to see if you look at a neuronal axis, an atlas of the nervous system. We now call these fibers, first they were just kind of a random assortment of axons, then they all came together in the internal capsule. Now that they're outside the brain, we call them the Crus Cerebri. And I'm really sorry about this. I'm really sorry that this track changes names so many times as it goes from the top of the brain all the way down to the spinal cord. I wasn't there when they named it, so but I apologize for my predecessors. But in their defense, they didn't really understand that these were the exact same axons traveling from one place to the other. So they basically just kind of named them for where they could see them. So this is the image that you will see in an atlas, with this being dorsal and this being ventral. And this is the image that you kind of see if you just cut this and then looked at it straight, because you can see the Crus Cerebri is up And here's the Crus Cerebri again. So I just flipped it so that you'd understand that it's the same structure, just from two different points of view. In the next segment, we'll take up the Crus Cerebri and how these fibers then travel through the pons and the medulla in the rest of the brainstem.